Welcome. We are doing week 9 of our Dutch Wonderland everything quarter square triangles. We're getting in the home stretch. We're almost done. This week's block is this one right here, and it's about quarter-inch triangles. I'm going to show you how to do quarter square triangles here. But once we finish these blocks, you can then put the final row of blocks on. And then next week we'll talk about the pieced border and how it all goes together. And we'll be done. Believe it or not, it'll have been 10 weeks. It's hard to believe. So this is the block right here. And it is a very, very simplistic block. But I did notice if you are using our pattern and you are following along with the black colorway versus the blue colorway, this was a quilt that Clothworks brought in. And they colorized both quilts, and they said it was a 1-for-1 swap, but I realized on this block, where you see the fuchsia and the red, if you were to do a 1-for-1, it would actually be blue and yellow. So I had plenty of fabric. I was able to just go in and swap those out, so you can choose if you want to leave it blue and yellow like the directions, or red and fuchsia like the picture. Just want to give you a heads up that I caught that the other day. So I'm going to turn the camera down. We're going to talk about quarter square triangles. Before we do that though, really quickly, our winner this week, it was a cutting gizmo, which I'm going to show you how I used it, was Glenda. So thanks for playing along. She has her top almost done. And we are setting up our Moroccan Bazaar quilt. Let's see if I can get it there so there's no glare. This quilt is for sew along. We're going to do via Zoom. It's got triangles in a square, half square triangles. It's a flip and sew. And this is scheduled for September. So if you are interested in doing this, let me know. I will get all the information out in the group as soon as I get it all posted. It's towards the end of September. I'm going to do 2 Saturday classes a week apart. So the first week we'll go over everything. You'll have a week to sew a couple blocks, see how you do. And then we'll go into the second week about the blocks and how you put the whole quilt top together. And this is using one of my favorite rulers, the 2 Peaks in 1 ruler. So if you are interested, the patterns are available on the website for Moroccan Bazaar. And I will have, I can send you the link to the fabrics that I use, which are Moroccan red. These are from Henry Glass Fabrics. So stay tuned for that. It's the end of September. But let's move on to the putting the blocks together. I'm going to turn you down. Any questions from last week before I turn you down real quick? Okay, so this is going to be all quarter square triangles. Let's get the camera set up. There are different ways to do quarter square triangles. I'm going to show you the traditional way, and I'm going to show you how I do it with my ruler. And that is the Pac-Man ruler that I've showed you before. So first we're going to do these big squares, and I've showed you before how to mark them or to cut them. When they're really big like this, you can't use my triangle ruler. You have to use a regular ruler. And I use the ruler, I use the 45-degree line on the ruler, and these just get cut across both diagonals. So I'm going to align the 45-degree line with the edge of the square. And we're going to go from point to point. So we're aligning point, point, and edge. Now, if these were all the same color, quarter square triangles, and what I mean by that is if these were both cream and these were both red, you could just mark it like you do a half square triangle, sew it, make 2 half square triangles, and put them together and sew it again, doing the half square triangle method, going in the opposite direction to get a quarter square triangle. Because our quarter square triangle is 4 different fabrics, there is no way to do it this way with the square other than cutting it. So we're going to go ahead and cut. Then I don't move the squares, I move the ruler because they're aligned perfectly. And again, the other way, we're going to go point to point, 45-degree line on the ruler on this edge of the square. And we cut. So that's how you do big ones out of the squares. And that is the traditional method that's written in the pattern. And then you would go ahead and sew these together following the picture, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like once you cut them to get back to your 1/4 inch square. So this method requires a square that's 7 1/4 inches to get here. And there is no waste, but if you have only strips of fabric or you have a smaller amount of fabric, you can also do it with strips. So for a 6-inch finish block, which is what we're going for, you need 3.5-inch strips. And now we're going to use the other side of our Pac-Man ruler that we used for flying geese. And what I do is I look at the blocks, I pull them up here, and I say, in this case, you know, green goes to cream. So I would put the green and cream strips together. Or in this case, the red and the fuchsia, that is here is the red and the fuchsia. They are going to get sewn together like this, and then we sew these on top. So to do that, I layer them together, press them, and then I take my ruler, and this time we're using this side of the ruler, not the right angle, but the bigger, the 90-degree angle. And then we're going to align the top of the ruler, the edge of the ruler, and the 3 by 6 inch line, or the 3.5-inch strip line. Whichever one you see first is fine. And then we go ahead and we cut it. Now we pick these up as a unit and we sew it, making sure, this is the big trick here, if you say this one is red and this one is fuchsia, that is the correct alignment. So when I sew it, it'll press open and look just like that. If I were to pick this up and flip it and sew it, it's going to be backwards. So I cut it the way I believe I need to sew it. I do flip this guy open to verify with the picture or another block of test block that I have them in the right orientation, and then I will stack them all up and sew them. And that's how you cut it with the ruler for that one. And then for the black and white, same thing. You look at this and go, okay, this is my white, and the black is on this side. So I'm going to sew it this way. Take my ruler. This time I've already cut one, so I have to flip it. And you again align the bottom of the 3.5-inch line and the tip there, and you cut it. You would pick this one up and again look at, you can always look at it in this orientation. So this goes here, this goes there. So you're going to want to sew that way. Okay, so it goes like that, and it goes like this. So you know that's your seam. So you would go ahead and you would sew both of those. This flips out like this, and this one flips out like this. I have to say that quarter square triangles are super, super easy, but they are, when you're doing a 4-color one, they are the easiest ones to mess up the order. So you're going to end up making 4 of these for the block. And they're all different orientations, because if you look, these have the same colors, but the purple and red are swapped. These have the same colors, and the purple and the red are swapped. And that's so that when we go to put it together, that the red and the purple always meet, and the black background's on top, which is background A, and background C is on the bottom. So that's just the layout of the block. But let me show you, once you get them sewn, you're going to need to cut them apart. And if you chain sew them, this was the cutting gizmo. This is what we gave away today. This is the best tool if you do chain sewing, because you can just cut across like this, especially if you have trouble with your hands. It's really good if you have any arthritis or any kind of pain in your hands. It's easier on your hands. But then I want to talk about the pressing for this. So how we pressed this is you look at your unit again, And you are going to, I didn't sew a red and a purple together, but we're going to pretend I did. It's been one of those weeks. You ever have one of those weeks? All right, so here you go. So we would have sewn this one right along here, which I'm going to mark as my pretend sew line so you guys can see it. And I would press, this one is here, and then the cream and green, you open them up. Just double check yourself. I want the other one, because we want to make this block. So you see that, and then this one would flip out this way. But if you had sewn them, they're both being sewn this way. So I stack them all up going the same direction and press them the same way. So this would get pressed this way, and this one would get pressed this way. And the reason you want to do them in the same direction is so that they nest when you go to sew them together. So if you have them all stacked up, doesn't matter which colors they are, but if you know they're in the right orientation, you just stack them all up, sit there and press them all the same way, and then when you rotate the two to match, the seams will nest. Once you've got the seams nested, you go ahead and sew across the top, just like that. And we're going to press this one, but we're going to press this one like we did for 4 patches. So if you go in here and you just gently pop that apart, I'm going to hold it up to the camera so you can see. You know, you pop it apart, and then you can press that one to that direction and that one to this way. That way they're all being pressed in the same direction, and that will give you a very flat, no bulk center. And then the last thing we need to do is trim all our dog ears off of these units. And then to sew the units together, we lay out our block like I had before. And we're going to make sure blacks are at the top, or A is at the top, and the green is at the bottom. And you're just going to go ahead and sew it together, and then once you've got it sewn together, I went ahead and I pressed those seams open. So when you sew the two sides together, that's pressed open, that one's pressed open. Real quick recap on pressing seams open. You use a pressing stick, you lay the block on. Let's say this wasn't pressed. I was so excited, I was almost done with all my blocks, and I'm like, oh, I have to get the demo stuff. So I have to unpress it. So we take our pressing stick. So then you take a purple Thang, and you put the seam onto the pressing stick, which is the strip stick that we sell, and you press your seam open, you use the nose of your iron, and you just glide it right down. It makes it so easy to press seams open. So you want to press both these two seams to open and this one, and that will keep this block super, super flat. Because if you quilt your own quilt and you have bulk, when you hit it with your needle when you're quilting, your stitches will jump. It makes it so much harder to sew. So that is block 8. I'm going to pull you back up here. So that one goes right here. And you want to make sure that when you sew these into the quilt, that the green, this is the only part that might throw some people. Get my pin. Someday I'll have a real design wall. The green does touch this black. It's real easy to flip it and think black goes here, but the green is creating this here. So just don't flip the block upside down and put the black to here, because then you'll have green out here, and when we do that flying geese border, it needs to have a black edge on the outside, except for right out of these ones. These are the other blocks. So you can see now how the colors are starting to just marry into each other. And you'll see in the end it'll be hard to tell where each block meets. And you won't be able to just quickly and easily draw a grid on the quilt because the backgrounds just blend together. I hope you guys are getting along with these quilts. I really would love to see what you're doing. Next week's prize is the Zippy Ripper. If you haven't seen that, it's a great way to rip seams. I'll demo that next week. All you have to do is post your progress. It doesn't even have to be a completed thing, just your progress of where you're at. Keep an eye out for the Moroccan Bazaar class coming up. Again, that'll be the end of September. And I'm kind of flabbergasted. We're on week 9. We're almost done with this guy. And it won't be bad. If you've already done your center, you just have to sew the blocks onto the outer border, and then we're going to do the Flying Geese border next week, and we'll be done. And then we'll have stunning quilts. Also, make sure you're posting pictures, even if you're not doing it for the contest, because I am going to be doing a blog post showing the whole process of our class and how it went, to share at the beginning of September. So if you want to be a part of that and have your quilts there for people to see, I will credit you for your beautiful work. But, send in your pictures so that we have them. And this week we also posted some more videos on YouTube. Brand new project called Pretty as Punch. It's using a line of fabric from Benartex called Fruit Punch. It's a real graphic, really fun hot pink and orange quilt, which you don't see a lot of orange from me, so it is a special one. And we have changed the video format, so we will be posting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you can always subscribe and get notified, or you could just pop in on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There'll always be a new video for you to look at. So and if you're following along next week, I will also be showing us how to use all of our blocks. If you were just doing the individual 9 blocks, so you just did one of each, I will have a secondary layout to show you next week of what to do with those. It's pretty simplistic, but it's a great way to use the blocks. So if you just want to follow along and learn the technique but not make a huge quilt, that's a perfect way to do it. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, make sure you like and subscribe below. You can find the Whimsical Workshop on our website, thewhimsicalworkshop.com, and that has all links to all of our other social media platforms. Thanks for joining us.